Drilling fluids touch just about everything in the drilling process. We're here to deconstruct the drilling process and drilling fluid concepts to provide a deeper understanding of our industry. In each episode, we'll share information, talk to interesting people, and maybe share a few stories along the way. Welcome to the Flowline, a production of AES Drilling Fluids, brought to you by Matt Offenbacher and Justin Gauthier.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode here in the lab, aka the studio, on a Monday, depending on when you're listening to this, but today it's Monday for us.
Yes.
Some say, I don't know, how many times have you gone into the office, just randomly thought of this, is like, oh, yeah, it's a Monday, one day closer to Friday. Do you get that a lot? I feel like today I had it like 3 times, and I was like, what is wrong with Monday? I tend to think it's one of the best days of the week myself. I love it.
I work with a lot of very cynical people, as you know, at least in my immediate circle. So we don't get that one a lot. However, I don't mind Monday. There's something about after the weekend, like catching up with people and seeing everybody. But I also feel like Mondays are kind of our meeting day, which we don't have a ton of meetings at AES, but I like to be able to put my head down, and Monday is a day where it's like firefighting and sitting, and anyways, not my favorite day of the week, but it exists. Accept it, don't fight it,
right?
It's coming back around again.
I think it's about perspective, but I do like Monday because then it sets up for like all the things that I know that's going on that week. I get to look forward to. It's like, oh, I get to look forward to this, I get to look forward to that, and of course, everyone loves the weekend, but it's like everything that week has to present itself with, like, it's Monday's the start of it, so it's like all these fun things I get to look forward to. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's very optimistic.
I don't know, it's always been like that. But anyway, whatever day this is that you're listening to the Flowline, appreciate all the support. Sometimes I say this at the very end, I'm going to say it now. The best ideas we have for shows or episodes are from those listening. Either ask questions, they respond to some things we discussed. But at the end of the day, please engage. It helps us to sort of plan and know where we stand, and it just gives us some great things to talk about most of the time. And it kind of comes back to, I don't want to ask the dumb question. Well, clearly, if you've been listening long enough, I ask a lot of dumb questions, so you won't be stumping me, or you might even stump me with a good question. But nonetheless, engage. Follow us on LinkedIn. And by us, I mean the AES page. I don't do much on LinkedIn anymore besides like a little sort of update here and there. But again, the AES page is awesome. And if you haven't seen the new videos...
Yeah, you like them?
I love them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like head scratching, but then some people like myself who laugh at a lot of things I think are hilarious. But the sort of like the statement and the... just the idea behind it is, we're giving engineers their time back. So, Matt, being that you're in that department, can you kind of explain what the videos are and from your perspective, sort of what the intent is with them?
Yes. So, I think, I read I get into these phases. I read 50 pages out of a book every day, and I'll read 5 books on whatever. Yeah. And I read 5 books on advertising, and they were fascinating. Oh, cool. But one of the issues that I feel like sometimes we have at AES is we do a good enough job that it's sort of like when there's not a problem, your customer may not realize the value you're creating. Imagine how bad it would be if I wasn't here. And so when things go smoothly for too long, I think, that's one thing that KPIs are really important to show hey, here's the numbers. Here's, hey, we handled 1,000 loads for you in this last quarter and no delays whatsoever. Okay, wow. So those things I think can be helpful, but the problem is if you do a good job, you tend to not get noticed. Right? No, squeaky wheel gets the grease, or let's say there is a problem and you fix it quickly, that's great, but the greatest value is in never seeing the problem, right? And so when our guys in the field do such a great job that this stuff never comes up, how do you remind the customer of it? And so that was sort of the goal of the marketing aspect. And then reading these books on advertising, one of the things they talked about is to be memorable, don't do the most obvious things, don't do what people expect. So originally...
Like a pamphlet saying we broke a record?
Come on now. Yeah, there's a lot of bit records out there, but I don't know who's Guinness isn't tracking it. Anyways,
I love that.
The other thing that I had they'd said is like to be memorable, be kind of weird or goofy.
Yes.
So originally it was like thinking about what a lot of our customers enjoy. And just, I guess playing into some stereotypes, but, okay, the phone rings and I'm in the deer blind, or the phone rings and someone's about to exchange their vows at a wedding, or, when where you wouldn't want to be interrupted, and or you're about to make a putt and your phone rings, right? Like, those are things that, like, everybody's seen an example of that distraction.
Yeah.
And so from there, the team took it and said, okay, well, what if we just did, like, really, like, goofy things, and it's like, hey, you're free to do whatever you want because AES is taking care of anything that could come up.
Yeah.
And so from that messaging perspective, we thought, Addie was like, what about like somebody having a tea party with cats, or right, where it's like,
they're like
okay,
the most obnoxious thing that likely one of our customers probably isn't doing, but
right. But the whole point
the
is
message is clear.
Yes, it's pretty memorable because it's just like, okay, little out there, and that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
So we thought it would just be sort of a fun, engaging way to get that message across.
Yeah.
And that's what the book said was a better way to do it, I guess.
No, that's interesting. And again, it's unique, and it's one thing I think we do so well is we just do things different. Again, advertising is one of them. And so, in marketing in general, just been a lot of comments over the years of, man, you guys are doing such neat things on the marketing, and and even just the content creation. And again, that's just one small bit of it, and it doesn't necessarily sell drilling fluids. Like, I doubt we're going to sell a pallet of some product because they saw a video, but it's the full package. And again, it is memorable. And for those who haven't seen it, that was the first one, and the second one was a gentleman, a customer about to do karaoke, right? And then all of a sudden the phone rings, and he gets back to it. But the videos are so funny because you can tell that they are AI, like they're sort of, but it's in a quirky way in a sense. I don't know if it's by design, but or AI just because it's there. It's like it's almost there, but it's not quite. But which makes it to me even just funnier.
Well, I think part of our discussion was let's take advantage of this while we can, because I mean there's some cost to it, but it takes a lot of prompts to get what we were able to get, and
yeah,
I mean Tom did a lot of that work, but with that, like it's that's the only way you could create something like that without it being just like it needed to be AI to be like it contributed to the absurdity.
Yes.
But we also knew like, man, if you go on your feed now, you can see all these AI generated images and they're there or whatever. Like, I mean, I think sometimes they're a reasonable visual aid to something you have to say, but a lot of times people just look at it, that's AI generated.
Yeah.
So this one, it was like, well, let's do something where we get to use our imagination and have fun with it.
Yeah, because it is realistic. Like it is at first glance, you could think that someone was sitting there about having a tea party with a cat, and they're like, we watch it over and over, and you're like, wait, there's something off about this. But if you watch it just at first glance, you're like, why would they set up a tea party with cats? Like, how did they do that? But very neat. And so like, well, again, not to get in the weeds, but to actually create a video like that with people and props, and it would take forever. And I'm sure the video took a little while to, create. But at the end of the day, it is quite a time and money saver for that purpose.
Well, so it's just simply something you wouldn't do. I mean, right? Like we don't have the resources, as goofy as we thought we might think it were to be. We wouldn't put that much resources towards doing a live action cat tea party with actors and all that, right? And and so it was. I think it's just another example of like as these technologies come out, like what are some creative ways to take advantage of them? That give you an opportunity to do things you would normally be able to do.
Yeah. So. No, I thought it was cool and thought it was worth talking about. But, where we do actually spend a lot of time and resources is not by creating videos, but it is by creating new technology, isn't it, Matt?
Yes.
Well, and why not talk about that today? And this was something, again, brought up by a listener. So, talk about new technology and field trials. And I think we take it for granted, or maybe not we, but just broadly speaking, folks take, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be in the drilling fluids world, but just in oil field services in general, new technology can often be just asked for, expecting that, someone, thinks of it, has a vision, all of a sudden it's downhole and it works. But the reality is it takes a lot of time, effort, resources to have a vision or something on paper on the whiteboard and actually get it down whole and to a point where people want to use it over and over again. And so
Absolutely.
Matt, that's part of the discussion today is talking about the new technology and field trials and what it takes to go, from, I guess, maybe conceptually all the way to sort of post-production and data collection.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think it's good, and I think we've had our share of experiences with this recently. I mean, it's something that we kind of do all the time, and it's a lot of it. I mean, it's one thing to break a record with conventional stuff and do a lot of the basic things right over and over again. But when you're offering something that solves a problem or could change an approach, there's a lot of drama with that because you can spend all this time in the lab saying, man, everything tells me this is great, but it's all meaningless until it gets down a hole and proves itself. And up until that point, it's just a nice idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's so true. So let's talk about, assuming we've got a trial ready, or, say a rig identified, a well, how do we actually get ready for that trial, assuming we've been given the opportunity?
Well, normally when we design a product, it's going to be a pretty broad, okay, this will work in most areas we work, right? And so that might be temperature, that might mean, if it's water-based, salinity, there's certain environments. But then when somebody says that rig, that well, then now we have a much better idea of what we might encounter, how hot it's going to be. So we have to take our product, our candidate product, which, we give our products an experimental number. Most people do this. The reason is you don't want to just go right out, the bat with a trade name, because a lot of our trade name products, you register with the Patent and Trademark Office. So everybody knows it's yours, and there's some protections from someone knocking off your product, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So we'll go with an experimental number, so if it doesn't go well or we have to reformulate, we don't burn that number or that name. We just switch numbers. But you start with this, so you validate sort of your baseline, but then you do some stress testing. So what happens if I have too many solids? Does it gel up? Or what happens if we take a saltwater flow? Mm-hmm. So you go through those contingencies and try and replicate those events in the lab to give yourself an idea. One, are there any points where you really shouldn't use this stuff? A lot of times the lubricants will find, if the lubricant's doing really well, people get tempted to be too aggressive. And so there's, some lubricants that at, 6% have a thickening effect on the mud. It's well, I don't want you to get there. So I'm going to put in all the literature. Yeah. We're not stay below this value. So we can use that to sort of inform any procedures, and we also think of contingencies. So sometimes we might even say, hey, have an extra pallet of this out there just in case. Just any of those kind of be prepared for everything scenarios. And so I think that's probably a big part of just the okay, getting a product ready for that well. Yeah. But then I think the other thing, I mean, you've seen this a ton too, is customers many times, you're all excited about a trial, but an operator, they have different priorities. There's downside risk too, right? If it doesn't work, does it create more problems and cost money, or is it something we just stop using it, Yeah. But I find that there are a lot of incentive plans with customers that sort of promote doing the same thing. So the downside risk is very high when it's look, my objectives have me drill X number of wells this year to meet our plan under budget. Yeah. And so me trying something new or different when I'm on pace to beat my threshold, I'm not fully committed to trying something new. And I've seen this all over the world. Everywhere I've been, I think there's a lot of it's almost sometimes you have to have somebody who's real aggressive and just says, I want to be different, I want to break the mold. Mm-hmm. Or it could even be that I know some operators will have this area we try new things. Right. This crew, this rig is dedicated to trying new things and evaluating them. But I guess making sure you have the right customer with the right candidate well
Yeah.
Just because sometimes you'll get a lot of excitement from one person, and then if the energy isn't there, you can't get buy-in from the field, or something happens, and you get a very murky trial, which the goal of a trial is to really determine if this product is worth it or not.
Yeah.
So it needs to be used properly under the right circumstances to really say yay or nay, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Matt. And so how, like, I guess just broadly speaking, over the years of new technology being deployed, assuming it works in the lab, you beat it up, everything looks good, price checks out. How many, or what percent of products that make it to the field as a field trial actually make it to like a commercial marketing product? Like just top of head.
That's a good question. I think the percentage is actually pretty high. My gut would say maybe 80%.
Okay. And you think that's a function of just the experience now and the data we have? We know we can kind of do a litmus test before we even get something in the lab based off the knowledge of the chemistry that you're going to try and this and that. And so like you have a fair idea of like, okay, if we put this and this together with this goal in mind, there's a good chance that this will work. And if not, we make a minor tweak here and there. Or like how is it such a, because that's a pretty good success rate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally a lot of the lab stuff is actually pretty good. The problem is that it's very easy to misinterpret that data, but I think with some of the experience we have, our team knows when they feel like they have something. I also think that there's an aspect of you get some trials, you get some momentum, you go ahead and commercialize. The question then is, does this thing have legs for 6 months? Is it going to be in our portfolio forever?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there have also been some products that, there was some general excitement about initially, and then, sometimes what happens is people get overly enthusiastic and they use it where it wouldn't necessarily help, and they're like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like, that really wasn't a good candidate, but we're selling it in volumes now where, you're not putting a microscope under each well. Or a customer says, I just want to try it anyways, and then they come back and say, well, I don't really. So there's stuff like that. So I guess, there's that element, and then I think there's also just like, hey, we came out with something better.
Yeah.
So there's sort of the product life cycle as well. But
makes sense.
Many of our products, if they make it that far along, find a place at least for a while. And that's the thing, since we have our own blending facilities and that kind of thing, like we can turn this stuff out really quick.
Yeah.
And take a run at it.
Awesome.
So
let's move on to sort of the preparation part. Assuming we've got something we like, it's going to be sent to the field for a trial. How do we actually prepare for that trial?
I think one of the big overlying questions we have to ask is, customer wants to try it, but what are their real objectives?
Right.
Like, could we measure and quantify what that is? And sometimes it's like, well, I just want to try it and see if it's better. Well, what's better? Is 10%? Because there's going to be a value price point. New technology isn't always cheaper. And so the question is, okay, what would we determine would be a successful well, and get a buy-in from the customer that, yes, those are acceptable metrics. And not only that, under what framework are we measuring it? Not like we throw it in a well and see what happens, but no, we're going to add it at this point in the well, and these are the things we're going to do. We're not going to change drilling parameters for 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Or, you only have so much say-so as a service company. But if you can get an agreement that these are the best possible ways to do apples to apples relative to their other swath of data, we want to see if we can suss that out before we actually put it in the ground.
Yeah. No, I've been a part of several trials from sort of the account manager perspective, and that's the challenging part is what does success look like, and how do you define, a successful field trial, or, what goal are your goals the same as their goals? And at the end of the day, every well's different, right? So, we always talk about trying to compare apples to apples, but the reality is there's no two apples the same downhole. And so it becomes very challenging, which again is why, there are just certain customers that look at this, or I guess I could say there's a lot of customers who are aligned in that sense. And then there's a lot that, there may be a key stakeholder that wants to do a field trial in the office, but then in the field, they don't want anything to do with it. And then that becomes a whole nother episode if we want.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the preparation and defining the goals and objectives, to me, that is honestly the most important part. Because when you get it downhole and all of a sudden says it doesn't work, and it's like, under what framework did we establish to decide whether or not it didn't work? I can't stress that enough, because it is extremely frustrating when that kind of all implodes, when it could have easily just been communicated to everyone across the board.
Yeah. Well, and I think even on the upside, sometimes we find, like, I mean, we get this a lot with lubricants. Like, they're just, oh, it worked well. And you're like, according to what? You know, and it's like, well, you know, the torque went down when we added it. Okay, well, you know, you can adjust drilling parameters and lower torque. You can, right. Or the torque went up. Well, did the torque go up because you were drilling faster, because you let go of the brake? Like, ROP went up. Like, do I get any credit for that? So yeah. I think just sort of getting an understanding of where everybody's expectations are and then measuring that as you go could be really helpful. And I mean, there's all these other elements to that, where maybe if you can get that commitment, you can update the MUD program to reflect those expectations, so it's in writing.
Yeah.
You know, on the prep side, like, we'll set schedules on when we want to catch samples. We'll send out proper sample containers to make sure that everything is stored properly.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll send an extra person out there. You know, some of our guys really take an interest to this, and we can just sort of let them run with it in the field.
Mm-hmm.
But if we ask too much of them, well, they're also supposed to be like checking mud and doing their day job. We don't want to be disruptive. And so we might send a tech service specialist out there who just has maybe some extra material, like, you know, lab testing and that, you know, catch the samples, and they're there to help out. But we want to let the mud engineers be mud engineers, and then this person can capture the extra information, keep an eye on things. You know, and I mean, this is where even just trying to get rig site buy-in, again, can you do this before the trial? A lot of times what happens is you show up as a foreigner in a strange land on a rig site with a rig crew that doesn't know you, and, you know, the drilling consultant is like, well, I just found out about this, or, you know, they've already maybe got a little chip on their shoulder because they feel like it's being pushed down to them. Yeah. But then the flip side of it is, if you can get their buy-in and get their interest, they're like, oh, how we doing, you know? And they become part of the, like, let's, you know, within my realm of influence, like, let's see if we can measure this, you know? So it can go well for you too.
Yeah. Well, to your point, is you get company reps out there, they're out there for their rotation, and, you know, at the end of the day, is they're looking to, you know, get on their hitch, drill, you know, according to plan, and then go home. And so if there's anything that pressures them into doing something different, or that could derail their sort of plan on what that 2 weeks or a week looks like, you know, they're thinking, well, what's in it for me? Like, why would I add stress to my life and potential wellbore issues if everything's been going pretty good? So, hey, you can come out here with your little product, but I got Johnny over there ready to get back on it whenever yours fails. Like, again, that's an extreme case, but it's a real case.
No, it happens. Yeah. It definitely happens. And I mean, that's the part. It's shocking, I guess, to me. You know, we've talked about, you know, the field and the office and those disconnects, but it's sometimes you'll have the field be on a very different page than the office, and that's a horrible set of circumstances for a trial.
Yeah. It can make it challenging. But to your point, on the upside, if you do get buy-in, then it could be a full team effort and actually be, you know, an exciting opportunity for everybody.
Absolutely.
So it goes both ways. Of course.
For sure.
You know, it's just, I guess, on the prep side, is there anything else? You know, I know for us, you know, again, when it comes to data collection, talk about the data collecting piece, or just on the, because that would be more of the trial, but sort of preparing, like, what are things we need to be sort of getting ourselves plugged into before we get going?
I like to ask, especially, you know, I'm normally not going out to the field. I love to be able to get EDR access ahead of time, or just make sure that's buttoned up so I can, like, log in and keep an eye on things if, you know, if we're doing a trial. Yeah. I mean, it was funny. We had a trial a while ago, and it was like everybody was staring at the EDR in someone's office, just like, oh, wait, they're making a connection. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I think we do our upfront engineering. We do our hydraulics, and we've talked about it in the past. You know, hydraulics is a great baseline. So if anything, what's going to happen is they're going to say that anything that has changed is because of your new product, right?
Yeah.
And so hydraulics is your best friend because you can model expectations. You can quickly try and replicate something that might be out of the ordinary, but you want to stay on top of those things. And so making sure you do that up front, and then, while the well is going on, and EDR access, even if it's like, hey, if we've got a cross out well that's right here, like maybe we can compare how things are going as the well goes on. So those are really nice things to have, and it's worth asking if there's approvals and that sort of thing, asking well in advance, as opposed to like day of, like, oh, by the way. It improves your odds of getting it in the time you would want it.
Right.
So, and then I think, I'm sure there's other things I may be missing, but I think at that time we're actually maybe ready to, go out to the rig and, kick open a toad or what have you.
Okay. So let's talk about the actual trial itself.
Yeah, here, one, make nice with everybody on the rig. This is where these guys can make or break you. Like, they know how to watch things fail just as much as they could step in and help you succeed.
Right.
They're more capable, than they're ever giving credit for. They know that rig. And so I always think it's great to show up with a bunch of tally books and hats and, make everyone happy that you're there before you even get started with the trial. And then start showing up to the safety briefings and that kind of thing. One, if they give you a minute, a lot of times the safety guy will say, hey, do you want to tell us about what we're going to do? Yeah. And it gives you a chance to remind them of any PPE considerations or any other things about doing something that might be a little different. If there's a JSA necessary, those kinds of things, like working through that with the team before you get started. Yeah. And just sort of making yourself known. I always found the safety meetings were a great way, because you're stuck in usually a metal box with a bunch of guys waiting for, the tool pusher to show up or whatever. Yeah. You get to know them a little bit. And then, when we start actually applying the product, getting those data sets, a lot of it is, if you don't catch a sample now, you're never going to get it, right? It's a very unique set of circumstances you get to add that product. So it may be you catch a sample before you add any. Then after you add some, or what your recommended treatment, and then every X number of feet that you may have pre-programmed. Right. And on top of that, because hopefully we've arranged EDR access, look at that EDR and get the timestamp of when we added product or when something happened. Yeah. That's fluids related, that may not be logged on the EDR, but could be very relevant later when you try and do some analysis post well.
That's true. And can you speak a little bit on the analysis part? I know, we're going to talk about that post, but, okay. Are you ready to move on to post?
Let's do it.
Okay. Because during the trial, I think you laid it out well. And so one thing that I especially appreciate is, back, call it a few years ago, when you'd get a field trial going, you really, the only data you would have is whatever your mud engineer reported. But we've come a long ways in our sort of analysis and insight piece of it, and humble brag on Mr. Sanjit. He's helped develop some neat tools to help better evaluate and sort of quantify, I guess, and qualify the performance of a product. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I think we've been really challenged to look at the drilling system as a system, and our fluids are one part of it. And so it's something we're not drilling engineers, and we want to stay in our lane, but to the same degree, we want to have enlightened conversations with drilling engineers, and we look at those data streams on the EDR and say, look what changed. Look at, hey, there's a shift in torque, or, oh, hey, we see something interesting with gamma here, and draw some of those correlations. And what's been kind of interesting is, we do it kind of sheepishly at first because we're not a drilling engineer. Yeah. But at the same, sometimes we're like, you know what, that's actually kind of interesting. And then we kind of both lift up the hood and go a little deeper. So, right. All of that, especially if it's EDR data, but then we'll also capture a bunch of samples, and, we may rerun things in the lab to see if it matches our lab testing to show, okay, field lab, how do they compare? Sometimes we may try and evaluate, sometimes we're trying to figure out how if we can measure the concentration in a field sample. So is there some analytical technique in our lab where if we were to go at it on another well in the future, we would know that there's some new measurement method we could come up with to show that it's at 2% by volume when you do this titration or this FTIR, peak or whatever. And then, we try and gather all that information and tell the whole story of what happened, key lessons learned, and put that all in a summary report. And hopefully that it facilitates a conversation with the customer to get feedback. Did you see what I see? Help understand, okay, like, I'm excited, but are you excited, or was this just
right.
you think we got lucky?
Yeah.
What else do you need to see next time, or those kinds of things? So coming back and going through all that information and saying, kind of this is where we're at. And if it goes well enough, a lot of times there's an opportunity for another trial. But this is your opportunity. If you got great data and everything, you might write up a case history. You might think of other ways to share that information and get people excited so you can try it again.
Yeah. No, and this part of it is extremely important, is kind of circling back. And, if you do get good feedback from the customer or in the field that you both agree on, then it helps improve your business. And maybe, unfortunately it wasn't maybe it was a good trial, but they've decided, there's not enough value there to keep moving forward. Well, if you get enough good information, you can get back to the drawing board. But if you just kind of get it didn't work, we're just going to go back to the old stuff. Well, okay, why? Like, we're seeing this, but what did you see? Like, how did you determine that it wasn't? And oftentimes, again, and respectfully, like, everyone's busy, and drilling engineers and superintendents and on the customer side they're not hanging out waiting to try and make our business better, right? Like, they're busy, and so we get it. But any little bit of information we can take away from a trial only helps us, which ultimately really helps the customer, because that's what we're in business for, is to service them. So
sure. And I've seen a number of times where something happened on the rig, totally not fluid related, that affected the ability to evaluate the product.
Yeah.
And the best you can do at that point is say, look, we got it in the hole. Like, it's been in a well before, and it wasn't catastrophic,
Yeah.
So there's lower risk of just throwing it in a well. But I think it's also an opportunity to circle back, because, look, they're busy, and remind them of, like, hey, this was the success criteria, but our parameters changed. So, like, maybe you give me another shot, or, like, you sort of understand where, because, I mean, any of this stuff in the field, it spreads like wildfire. I mean, I remember one time, it was just like a stuck pipe incident, but we were using a new fluid, and all it was huge overbalance pressure. They go to displace to the new fluid, and they have some junior drilling engineer go on the rig, and he doesn't reciprocate the pipe beyond the stretch. And so, like, the pipe was effectively static for like an hour with, I don't know, it was like 7,000 psi of overbalance. And it was like, okay, well, you were going to get stuck. That had nothing to do with our fluid. But the next morning, oh, guy, I heard you guys sell stuck pipe fluid and all this. And like, it was just one of these, like, no. But setting the record straight can be exhausting, because, it's too risky to try. And it's like, that had nothing to do with us.
Right.
And so having that stuff really clear, and, if anything happens, having what happened really clear, which it's always great to have somebody out there to get this information.
Oh, yeah.
Then I think that can really help. Okay, let's get another trial that clearly gives us a chance to evaluate whether this is good or bad.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's a very, very good point, and a good way to sort of kind of wrap things up, Matt. I don't have any other. Well, I have lots of different comments and thoughts and things about field trials, but at the end of the day, they can be exciting. They can certainly move the needle. They can help with drilling efficiencies, and I think it just goes back to what is a win, and for field to come out with new products. The people who are most excited about them is us, unless it at the end of the day saves time and money, or it eliminates a casing string, which again comes back to time and money. But we live in a world where pennies count, and so a lot of folks are really honed in on efficiency and time saved, and so just kind of getting back to like the why we design products. It really is to help the customer drill better wells, and hopefully under their AFE or under their sort of their time spread. So but it can be exciting, like you said. You get going on a product that you've never used, and everyone's looking at the EDR data, or coming out of the hole, or did they get casing on bottom, and it can be exciting, but it's kind of an emotional roller coaster at times, and probably more so for you guys. But again, huge shout out to our technology and R&D team, because I feel like we pump out new products for all good reason, quite often.
Yeah, no, I mean they work hard, and we're always trying to think of something new, and I think the fun thing is we've got a great sort of team dynamic between some of the experience we have, some of the, it's just across the board. Like everybody seems to complement each other pretty well.
Yeah.
And in spite of them not particularly caring for a Monday, perhaps they get a lot done throughout the whole week. So
that's absolutely right. Well, with that being said, everyone, really appreciate you tuning in to another episode. If you have any thoughts, ideas for a show, reach out to us either on LinkedIn, or you can reach us at the Flowline Podcast at aesfluids.com. I'm sure Matt would love your feedback on the new advertising campaign we're doing.
Yes.
So please, if you watch it on LinkedIn, add a comment. Or if it's something you'd rather just tell Matt in private, go ahead and do that on a DM. And with that being said, everyone, take care for now. Until next time.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please tune in next week for another exciting episode of The Flowline. And remember, may your returns always be full and your trips always smooth. Views expressed in this program belong to participants and not their employees. The program is for informational purposes only and cannot take the place of seeking professional advice. Copyright AES Drilling Fluids.